Χαῖρε, φίλε, and welcome. Today we're going to be taking a look at John chapter 5, verses 19 through 20. But first, last time in John chapter 5, here is our rubric. Let's go ahead and get started. Apakrinato un ho Jesus kai elegen autois, amen, amen, lego humin, u dunatai ho huios poien afheautu uden eon me lepei ton patra poiunta, ha gar an ekenos poie, tautakai ho huios homoios poie. Hogar pater philei ton hoion kai panta deknusin autoi ha autos poie kai medzona tuton dexei autoi erga hina humes thaumadzete. Couldn't really get that last one. But let's go ahead and take a look at verse 19. Our very first word is our verb, which we've seen before, though this one we don't normally see in this form. Usually we see it as apokrithe, but here we have a new, which means we've got a different stem for it. And then notice also this E we have here between the apo and the krino, which then tells us that this is still a past tense, but off of the present stem with that new. Yeah, apokrino, apokrithe. Yeah, there's no new that I can remember. So that E, especially with this ato ending off of the present stem, tells us that this is going to be a third person singular imperfect tense, and then this verb is deponent, in middle in form, and indicative, with Jesus as our subject, un being therefore, so we don't need to parse Jesus. Kai, again here we have the augmenting vowel E, and our epsilon nu as our ending. So this is going to be another imperfect of the same form except indicative, but otherwise identical. Not indicative. Active. There we go. This one I forgot to write indicative. And this one just means says, responded to them being the Jews who are asking. I now don't remember. It's been a while, as it always is. So I'm going to write down the translation and be right back. Moving on, we have amen, amen, which I think I already told you in a previous video comes from the Hebrew, which I'm going to horribly mismark. I think that is how the Hebrew would appear, amen, and we translate it truly or assuredly. The idea, as I think I said earlier, is it's you say something when you agree with something or when you wish something to be true. So somebody makes a declarative statement, you know, I agree with that. You would say, amen, or something along those lines. So I think the way that I typically treat them, whether or not in these videos I don't remember, is just translate it directly as the Hebrew word it is. Lego, we don't need to parse. Human, we also need to parse. That's just the dative plural with Lego, as we've seen before. U dunatai, you get a negative there with our verb tau alpha iota as our third person singular ending with ho huios, our nominative subject. Dunamai, this is the present stem, so present active, and this is a deponent verb, not active, indicative, as I missed on the previous one. And then this is going to take an infinitive as its object, and then the infinitive will sometimes have its own accusative object or prepositional phrase. And we see we have a prepositional phrase here with poiein, but because of what heautu is, poiein's not taking it as its object, so we'll deal with that momentarily. Epsilon iota nu, as you know, this is the epsilon contract verb off of the present stem, so present, active, infinitive, the contract telling us why there is a circumflex here on the ultima rather than back here on the penult. Yeah, on the penult syllable. This means to do, this means to be able. And then our prepositional phrase, this af is actually from apo. Taking the genitive, as we can see from omicron upsilon here, uden can't be part of the prepositional phrase, so that closes there. And this is singular, and it is masculine, referring back to Jesus. It's reflexive because this aspirated epsilon here tacked on to the beginning of the pronoun. What apo does with the genitive is it shows the source of something. So whatever poiein is doing, the source of poiein comes from eautu, from himself. Oh, and then here we have my stupid mistake. We do have the direct object of poiein, so this is going to be uden meden. Doesn't decline like a noun, but it means anything. So anything, nothing. Notably, we have two negatives here. In English, when we see two negatives in the same clause, we automatically change the clause into having a positive result. But in Greek, that's not the way that you perform, you say double negatives. Instead, in order to get a double negative, you have to have two different negative words. So we have oo here, so we would actually need maiden. If I'm remembering correctly, it's been a long time, as I would say with everything, since I've had to look into double negatives, but we would have to have the negative and a may type negative in order for the sentence to result in a causative statement. But since we have two negatives, the whole thing is still negative. So it means the son is not able to do from himself, and the direct translation would be nothing, but in English that makes it into a positive. So we instead X out this other canceling it, since we can only do one in English to do anything. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to put in parentheses the no in thing in order to make it clear that we don't have a double negative, but the technical meaning is we got he can't, and what he can't do is, doesn't work in English. But anyway, that's what I'm going to have to do there. Aeon may, here we have an except clause with blepe eta sub iota for a third person singular. And this is from blepo, blepso, so we've got the present stem. Eta ending is a subjunctive, but it is also an active form right there. Subjunctive going with our exceptional clause. T as the object of blepe from tis ti, so we have our accusative singular neuter. Yes, thinking, making sure that I'm getting this correct. Okay, so yeah, unless he sees, except he see what ton patera poiunta, so really it's T with this all together as the object of blepe. Ton, we have clearly a accusative masculine singular, which is the form, which I'm pretty sure we've seen before for father. So accusative, still don't need to see. Latins give me the habit. There's no point complaining about it. Poiunta, we've got the alpha right there matching patera, but we've also got our present stem with poi, omicron, epsilon and omicron contracting here for our omicron upsilon circumflex accent. Nu tau tells us that this is the participial form, the active participial form. Otherwise, it would be meme epsilon nu with the personal endings. So I'm going to write all that out, translate, and be right back. Moving on into our next clause, we've got gar as a post-positive with ha, our relative pronoun from aspirated hos, he, ho. And they all should have accents. Yes, they do all have accents, I think. So otherwise that just looks like the article. So we have our nominative or accusative plural neuter again, which should go back with something we haven't seen yet, so never mind about that. Moving forward though, gar, we've got the second half of this conditional clause here, except that you see what the father is doing for whatever. Or could be that we take ha with on, and we would translate that as a whatever. I forget, as the word whatever. I forget what that specific form is called, especially since we've already got the alpha nu, the on, in this clause. This, that's the problem with protasises and apodicises, or whatever the plurals are for those. I have such difficulty remembering which is which, and then Greek and Latin, like switching them around from the typical order that English likes them to be in. So that's something that you should look up yourself. Wheellocks will have a good explanation for it. Veltz or Groton will have good explanations for it. Whatever grammar you use. I'm afraid I just don't have time. This is finals week, publishing Monday, finals week of this quarter. Life's hectic. Getting back to work, Ekanos, Omicron, Sigma right there for nominative, singular, masculine. Poie is going to be the same form as blepe, so I'm just going to pull this one down here for parsing. And then this is going to be the object of poie. For, yeah, I think whatever is the better translation than trying to connect it with that one. And I should also note that Ekanos is, we have the far-pointing demonstrative because it has to go all the way back to the sun, past the father. No, sorry, other way around. We have Ekanos because the son is our subject and father is the object in this previous clause. The typical demonstrative would make us think, it's the son doing the deed, but instead we need to point to when we need to point to a different subject now from our previous subject, you use the I've been calling it the far demonstrative. There is probably a linguistic term for it, but I don't know that I ever heard it. Moving on, now we go back to hoios as our subject. These things going back to ha as our accusative, plural neuter again. These things also, the son, our subject. Homoios, omega, sigma, there is our adverb off of normal forming adjectives. And poie with epsilon, iota. Circumflex we already understand from the two previous times we've seen this verb. Don't need to parse it, it's in the present tense. The son likewise does. Moving on then into verse 20, another postpositive gar, the father now in our nominative subject sense. Philae, this is another contract verb, exactly like poie, no need to parse it. Ton huion with our nu right there is our accusative object. And kai, panta, all things. Deknusen, we've got a new verb here, so then that means panta is a new object for the verb. And notice that we have verb, object, object, verb, person, and person right there. So then that would mean we've got A, B, C, lowercase c, lowercase b, lowercase a, and a, what is it? Chiastic form in this verse. That's pretty cool. And then we've got, well, another clause that doesn't really fit into the pattern, just replicating object, subject, verb, which is actually, I suppose, a different pattern. But anyway, deknusin, this is going to be upsilon sigma, movable nu right there, off of deknumi, present stem, third person. Or no. That is incorrect. This is a me verb, deknumi. And that means that in the present tense, everything's wrong, or really everything's different. It's technically an older form for the verb. So then deknusin is not plural, but it is actually, hard as it is for my mind to comprehend this, singular, but still, yes, present, active, and indicative. And this means to show. So it's still the father doing the action here, and hence our ABC, CBA still works as a chiasm. Autoi, dative, don't need to parse that. Ha is going to be the same form as that. Alpha up there, don't need to change that. Omicron, sigma, subject, don't need to parse. And then likewise for poie, same form there. And then, yes, autos is still pater. Otherwise, it would have to be ekanos to switch to the son as the referent for that demonstrative. Moving into our second to last one, kai medzona. This comes from megas. I think it's megas, a word I rarely ever talk about. And here we have our comparative form, and this is with the alpha, a accusative plural neuter comparative. As I said, I think from mega, presumably the accent's right there, could be wrong. So greater things, to tone omega nu right there. And we know that this is not feminine because otherwise, otherwise the accent would switch over here. So only options are genitive, plural, masculine, or neuter. And neuter makes the most sense since neuter, all of these things, all the done things have been neutered beforehand. So that one right there, owning medzonta. Deikse, here we have a stem change from deiknumi and things go back to normal. So epsilon iota is a third person singular future tense now since we don't have an augmenting vowel, and this isn't an eta. And active, indicative, autoi, still a indirect object. And I realized I didn't need to go to all these other things, tauta and ha, because we have erga right there, which is our neuter. No, I still did because erga is not genitive plural. Instead, erga goes with medzona, matching it as also neuter. Drawing that over here. And then finally, for our last clause, in order that a purpose clause, humes, epsilon, iota, sigma there, nominative, plural, common. Phalmadzete, note we have this eta right here in the ete, second person plural ending. No, singular. Off of the present stem because of the zeta right there. Eta tells us that this is going to be a subjunctive with the hina clause. With the hina clause, that is. That was weird. Another thing, probably put in there. Forgot to tell you why that's genitive. It's not owning it. Instead, we've got a genitive of comparison with the comparative adjective. Yeah, it makes sense. So then naturally I need to add the word than to these. And there we have that. I don't recall if this is the end of what Jesus says or not, so I'm going to leave the quote marks off until next video, presuming I even remember to add them on. Sorry for the background gurgling and wheezing. That is the heater / air conditioner of this dormitory, which sits right over my door and likes to do that at midnight and apparently also at whatever time of day it is right now. Nothing I can do about it, but it's I guess better than hearing all of the other sounds of the dormitory that often happen. Thank you very much anyway for joining me. Let's go ahead and take a look at this in its own context. Sorry for getting sidetracked so often. As I said, end of the quarter. Therefore Jesus began to answer and said to them, Amen, amen, I say to you, the Son is not able to do from himself anything, except what he may see the Father doing. For whatever that one does, these things also the Son likewise does. For the Father loves the Son, and all things he shows to him which he himself does. And greater works than these he will show him, so that you may wonder. Have a good day.